Today's tale sees us playing Domina on Pro Gamer difficulty. And today I want to show off some tips and tricks on how to win in Pro Gamer and actually how to win with just one Gladiator. Um, it's pretty easy. So the first thing that I do is I pause straight away in this screen just so that I can get everything that I need to do done. First off, you want to enable this. So training wise, I do basic training here. I will go humility. I'll then go mind control. You can generally get this before the second battle. The reason I pick up mind control is because I've now gotten pretty good with the gladiators, and it's a lot easier to win your fights through mind control. Once you've got mind control, you go aimed attack into blade control for the 25% more damage. Once you've got blade control, you come over to shield control. You just do this because it's a stepping stone into polearm defense and into deep breathing. So deep breathing is one of the good ones here where you get some HP back. From there, you can go wherever you like, but I tend to go disarming weapon into critical strike so that you can deal massive amounts of damage. Once you've got that, I go weight training so that you can move around quicker, and then into attack vector so that all my attacks work out pretty well. So we're going to pick up humility here. Next up, I will organize my gladiators. So you always get three, right? You get one who's got nothing, you get the guy who's got sort of basic armor, and then you get one here who has, well, he's got the better gear, right? First off, all I do to him is I throw a basic Quamar on him. The reason I throw a basic Quamar on him and I leave the rest of his gear like this is because the very first battle, all that's going to matter is the damage. As long as you're doing more damage than the other guy, you'll win. Basically, they stand there and they beat on each other, right? Next up, all I do is I sell the other two. So I'm going to sell this guy and I will sell this guy. You're not going to need them unless something goes horribly wrong. I will then hire my employees. I'll hire the architect here. I'll hire the Faber. And I will hire the Secretos. So what I'm going to do, I also buy my food and my water straight away. You got to keep your food and the water up because if you get a drought, you will get screwed if you do not have enough food and water. Always make sure you enable auto repair, and the Faber goes straight into automatic upgrades so that he can start throwing gear onto your one gladiator. Once I've got this running, I will normally pick up armor upgrades, armor blueprints for cheaper upgrades, and that's it. That's all I grab from here, right? So I'll grab this one, and then later on I will grab the others. Over on the architect, I build one palace, one gather stone, and one hot coal. So the palace reduces your training time, the gather stones because you want strength training to be reduced, hot coals because you want agility reduced, and then the last thing I build is a bath, right? And the bath is there just to keep the gladiator slightly happy and to make sure that injuries get healed up just a little bit quicker. Over to the Secretos. Very first thing you train is the Predomars. The first battle is going to be fought by the AI because you cannot train fast enough to control him. So this one gives your AI a little bit of boost over the top of their AI. And then all I do is I go and I wait for the days to tick down just a little. I'll pick up the first one. And then on day... come on. Always make sure that you've got your training going here. The other good thing about having only one guy here is all your prayers on your Secretos will mean that he gets all the stat upgrades. It doesn't get split across anyone else. It just goes to the one guy. So I normally pick up strength, and then defense, and then weapon up here, and then everything else in between. But I actually did that in the wrong order. So I pick up the Predomars first, and then the Predovenus for the healing, right? Because you know that your first battle is going to happen, and that he's going to probably take some damage there. So you'll get that. You'll get mind control. And you notice this is all happening just before the very first day. And then on the next day, pick up some more wine. Now this is very important. The very first battle is going to be against the magistrate. So you always give him the most wine. You give him everything you can in basically doubles here. So 32. Do not ever give him less wine So this should be 64. If you don't have 64 or 128 or whatever it is needs to be, do not give him less. And then we will come up to the very first battle here. And the reason you make the magistrate as happy as you can is because the happier he is for this very first fight, the more money he's going to give you, right? And the more money he gives you, the better off you're going to be. So we're going to fight this first fight. I'm going to show you what I mean. So this guy does 21 damage, right? Versus our guy, who now does 45. So these two are going to just slap each other silly. And we're going to come in. We probably should win. I have seen a few times where it doesn't work out, but you know, that's some good old RNG. But they're just going to slap each other. And as you can see, I'm taking 2 damage versus the 30 that I'm doing. And he just gets decimated, right? And we get a whole lot of money straight out the gate here. We get some slaves. Now this is important as well. Always sell these guys. Just sell them. Just sell them. Next up, once you've got all of what you want here, just keep buying more wine. You won't be able to, at some point you're going to lose out, right? You're never going to be able to keep up with the fact that the temperament here keeps going down. But for as long as you can, keep hopping between them. So magistrate first, legate, and then back to magistrate when he's giving you a battle, just to keep them as happy as you can, to get as much money as you can straight away. And that way, you know, you've got a good start. So next up, once I've got all of this stuff built, I will then fire. So I'll build, you know, so as I said before, you build the palaces and all that stuff and the baths. Once all that's done, this guy actually gets fired, right? He gets fired and we pick up an educator here. And the reason we pick up the educator is because he has a skill called anatomy, which gives you 25% more damage on your attacks. Combine that with things like blade control over here. It's quite a steady increase, right? And you need that. You need to be able to be dealing the most damage you can. And then all I do from here is I keep training up the one guy, keep training him, keep training him, keep training him. And eventually he'll get to about 100 stats if you have, you know, a fine time. If he doesn't die or so on. Once he gets to 100 stats, you can then start purchasing gladiators from the legate here. And they will match the stats, stat for stat, right? So suddenly you can go from one guy who has 100 stats to 2 guys who has 100 stats. And then you just keep purchasing 3, 4, 5. And suddenly you have a whole Ludus full of guys with 100 stats. So I'll show you what that's like in a second. And I'll actually show you right through the end of what it looks like. But 100 stats across the board will decimate anyone. But you've always got to, the reason you've got to start with one gladiator is because you have to get there, right? So the Sacrados will keep pumping everything into him. Every fight you take will keep it pushing him up, and all the armor will go into him. And that's it. That is how you win with one gladiator. So here I am, about 150 days in, right? My single gladiator, he's been doing some work. He's been attending every pit fight he can, within reason. He's been taking every fight he can, within reason. And 150 odd days in, he ends up looking something like this. He's fully geared, and he has about 90 across the board. Now the reason this is important, because now 90 across the board is pretty hard for most things to handle, right? Most of the fights will be really one-sided. So I have one gladiator, right? And you're like, how is he going to win with only one gladiator and nothing else training? You come over to the legate, and the legate you can purchase gladiators from, right? The thing is the legate will basically match the level of your one gladiator. So suddenly, for the cheap price of 842, I've been spending no money at all. I can suddenly buy a gladiator who is probably mostly out of the league of most people. This guy has 422 health. He does 128 damage by himself. Even this guy here has 427 health. And he does 123 damage. So all you now do is you just start buying these. You keep taking fights, you keep taking pit fights, keep getting that money, but suddenly these guys are well out of the league of everything, right? And all you do is you keep leveling your one guy while buying these guys, and you end up in the final fight. And I'll show you what the final fight looks like with just what I have here. So here we are with 89 days to go. And as you can see, the people I can hire are pretty crazy, right? 123, basically 100 across the board. Just from pit fights, normal fights, I've gotten a whole lot of money. And as you can see from my training field, all I've done is I've just purchased a whole bunch of gladiators. And all I do is I click the heal button, stick them to meditate, and let them meditate. If you don't do it this way, if you heal them and they get fully healed, and then they start training on something, and you go to meditate, they will take forever because they have to finish whatever they were training first before they'll meditate. So you end up with them generally not meditating. So you'll see there's probably a few in here that I have meditating that aren't. Yeah, this guy here. Oh no, this is the one I just bought. So some of them have, but they've finally finished their training. So yeah, all I've done is I've got one guy here who actually just tried to escape, which is kind of annoying. And here's 200 across the board. This is my one guy that I fight with. All he does is he fights every single battle, and he gets me all my money. Everyone else has been purchased from the legate here. And you cannot train this amount of guys to this amount of level without purchasing. If I were to just take all the guys that I got free, all the slaves, and I just set them to train, there's no way each one of them would be... This guy's the lowest at about 87, 86. Everybody else is a complete monster. At 100, these guys will manhandle any fight you put them into. Any fight. So here we are, 1 day left to go. My primary gladiator did actually run, but it was all fine because all I'd done is I'd already hired all these guys, right? And at 100 points, so basically one of these guys can fairly much handle any fight. You should have a little bit of gold left over to upgrade all his gear if he does. So if one of your main guys runs away, you should be able to upgrade the gear on another guy and just become your main. So this guy was at about 100. I just threw on a bit better gear onto him, and he just started picking up the slack where we left off. So when you get to this point, you've got two options. You can let everybody free except for one if you've got a monster, or you can keep maybe one or two and then let everyone else go. So all I've done also is I've just upgraded everybody's weapon. Because from purchasing here, they kind of come in with different levels of weapons. So this guy comes in with a Quamar, but normally they'll come in with like wooden gladius and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to grant a whole lot of freedom here. Just let a bunch of these guys go. You can see I haven't even bothered upgrading their gear for the most part. Because at the level that they are at, they're going to be fairly huge, right? We're gonna probably we might just keep this guy and say this guy here just to help me out in the other fight. The other thing you want to do is every time you get them, you just want to make sure that they meditate a bit so that the AI has a little bit of control over them, right? Otherwise they'll be pretty garbage. So we're gonna go into the final fight here, and I'll show you what that's like. Spoiler alert, so this will show the entire ending, so if you don't want to see the ending, turn away now. If you do, then keep watching. So here we go, I'm just going to chuck in these three. Look, 159, 120, 111. These guys should power through. I'm not even, actually I'll pick up you. I'll just fight with this guy here. So we'll accept these terms and fight this battle here. So these three should be able to manhandle this group pretty easily, and we should get into the final battle here. It lags up a bit because it is a complete massacre, right? And this behemoth is left, but he is no match for basically what we've hired from the legate there. So you win this first one, And all those guys that I let go should now be ready to fight in the next one. I apologize, there might be a little bit of lag here. Yeah, your competitor, he's shafted us. We're going to be fighting here, and here's everybody we let go, right? I didn't even upgrade most of their gear, but they should destroy this group, in theory. The only things I did upgrade was weapons, because it's important that they do as much damage as they can. The game lags, it always lags, because everybody's saying thank you, there's so much blood going on, that it is a complete gore fest. And there you have it. That is how you can win Domina just with one gladiator, right? It's pretty crazy. And this is pro gamer difficulty, it's the hardest difficulty. And you can just win with one gladiator. Tune in next time for more adventures of Domina. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you like what you've seen, hit that subscribe button or leave me a comment on anything you want to see in the future.